Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to today's live session. I'm very excited for the amazing conversation that we are going to have today because we're going to understand what's the easiest way to start growing fast in life. Because I've seen there are two different kinds of way in which people grow in this world. The first way is the traditional, the normal, the linear way of growth. And there's nothing inherently wrong with that. The only thing is, it's not going to lead you to extraordinary results. So, let me describe this way to you first, and then the aim we should actually aim at, and how we can get to it to grow even faster in life. So, let's understand the first thing. The first way is what everybody tells us to do: go to school, get a job, start growing, start making some money, start having some impact in the world through your work, and just, yeah, live a normal life. Invest like everybody else is investing, study like everybody else is studying, go to the gym like everybody else is going, work on enough health just like everybody else is working, have an average relationship just like everybody else, dine and eat and travel to the same places that everybody else does, and just like a common life of a conformist. That's what average growth is. So like you'll grow maybe 5-10% in a year on all fronts. Maybe your growth will be negative, you never know. But it's not something that fulfills you, it's not something that leads you to greatness. And I know if you're watching these sessions, if you're tuning in, you are somebody who wants to get to greatness. So that's what requires us to move into the second lens of looking at growth. And that lens is to understand how people make big jumps and non-linear leaps in their success. Here's what I mean by it. See, when people make companies, when people build businesses, the number one thing they do differently is, and the number one reason they have outsized returns compared to their investment, is that they're willing to take higher risks and they're willing to think differently about problems. Now, for a lot of us, the challenge that happens is we understand the world, we understand things, but we never look at it this different way. So, all that happens is, I'll tell you, you have a door, for example, and the door is locked. So, because the door is locked, you're not able to move out. So, rather than asking yourself, how can I unlock the door? What you're actually doing is you're banging your head against the door, trying to crack it open. Why? Because the person next to you is doing the same thing on their locked door. And then we are wondering why growth isn't happening in our lives as fast as we want. Well, if you want fast growth and if you want an easy way out, you're going to have to take one risk. And that risk is looking stupid in front of people for some time. There's no way you can avoid it. Think about it. Every single entrepreneur who's done something big, who's done something better, they've learned to avoid and not be bothered by the fact of how people are judging them. The fact that their ideas are called crazy is the validation they need. Okay, somewhere we are on the right track, we are doing something right, because if people not understanding it yet, if people are judging it, if people are calling it too unrealistic, that means I'm on the right path. Now that's the spirit that you need if you want outsized returns in your life, if you want to grow exponentially and make those big leaps and shock yourself and shock everyone with the kind of outcomes that you're getting. But for that, you need to have a whole different way of looking at problems to find the easy way out. And to help you understand that better, I want to give you the example of Elon Musk, because he's somebody who embodies this perfectly well. Just imagine, what, 30-35 years ago, when he was a 17-year-old kid, he came to Canada with only $500 in his pocket. And with just that much of a resource, who he has become today is the richest man on the planet. The first person ever to cross the status of being a trillionaire. Something 50 years ago people wouldn't even have imagined possible. And yet he became that person. He succeeded. He grew his businesses to such a big level, from Tesla, from PayPal to SpaceX to anything and everything that he's done. He has created outsized returns. Like, imagine, there would have been so many people who were rolling in the millions when he only had $500 in his pocket. And yet, he's a trillionaire today. All those people are not. So, what's the difference? Well, the difference is in the approach of thinking towards problem that leads him to outsized returns. So let's understand that from SpaceX, his rocket company, the company that made Reusable rockets possible, the company that defied all of NASA's long-standing beliefs on how you can take human beings to space, a company that's on the mission of inhabiting Mars. I mean, the vision of that guy is crazy. The way he thinks is incredible. So, the first status, the first bar of doing something great and doing something great fast and growing fast and doing so easily is have a greater vision, have something beyond belief. This is crucial. When you have something beyond belief, you start to grow, you start to move further and further and further up ahead in your life. And Elon Musk has almost always had that, no matter what he's done or where he's gone. And so now let's understand how he built SpaceX, because that's one of the most fascinating stories where he has implemented this whole process of thinking and solving problems and finding the easiest way to grow fast. So he'd just gotten out of PayPal. He'd gotten a couple of $100 million in his bank account. And he was kind of curious. He was ready to take a bet. And he wanted to do something. And through discussions with people around him, he found out that actually private space travel and taking humans to Mars is something that he wanted to do. And then he talked to lots of people at NASA. And the cost of sending rockets up in the sky was mind boggling. For the fact that those rockets are only going to come down and crash again, the numbers just didn't make sense. So Elon Musk, he set out on his own mission. He wanted to find out, how can I make rockets? And the easiest approach that first came to him was procuring old missiles that he could use as rocket launchers. So he did something crazy. He flew in to Moscow, to Russia, to purchase old USSR missiles that were no longer in use. And he thought if he gets them, he'll be able to make a rocket. And he was pretty right about that. But then came a big problem of cost. The Russians said they're going to charge him $8 million per missile. And he just didn't have that kind of money to spare around on an experiment. And he did multiple trips between 2001 and 2002 to just get the Russians to agree to give him the rockets at a lesser price. They did not budge. Finally, on one of the flights, one of the last flights that he was taking from Moscow back to America, he gave up. He was frustrated beyond his mind. He's like, what's going on? Why am I just doing this back and forth? So he took a napkin, he took a pen, and he started doing some calculations. And he started to figure out what does it actually cost to build a rocket. He went into the core numbers, he went into how it's happening, he went into the raw materials required. And guess what he found? He found that it actually costs only 2 to 3% of the cost that these people are telling him to make a rocket from scratch. And then he was wondering, why such a big markup? Who's profiting from this? And that's when he found out it's not that anybody's profiting from this. It's that old structures, old hierarchies, old ways of doing systems, outdated supply chains, individualized parts manufacturing, and so many other things were bleeding inefficiencies that were unnecessarily driving up the cost of making a rocket. So he set out on the mission. I'm going to build something from scratch. And guess what? NASA said it isn't possible. You cannot build a rocket cheaper than this. Elon Musk said, I'm going to understand all the core principles of thermodynamics, of physics, of everything that really goes in to creating magical rockets, right? That's what he was essentially aiming at. He went into that research, he understood the core principles, and he figured out the cost has nothing to do with physics, the cost has everything to do with operational inefficiencies. And when he started taking action on that, in a few years, he had spectacular failures. Again, he was okay with it. But today, SpaceX is the company that made him a trillionaire. Today, SpaceX has done something NASA thought was impossible. They have rockets that go up in space and they come back down and they land as well. Otherwise, rockets would just go and crash in the ocean. And now they are making inhabitation of Mars a reality. Who knows? Maybe in a decade, maybe in two, but it's definitely going to happen. I mean, when Elon Musk is involved, things happen. He's someone who can just go about it because he has this crazy dream. He has this crazy way of approaching problems. But if you look at this whole story, the reason it started is on that flight back from Moscow. He took those moments to actually break the problem down and understand it from first principles. So when he did that, he figured out that actually it's not taking that much money or resources to build a rocket. And so for his companies, he set a new rule. He called it the idiot index. And everything that's happening there, he would measure it on that index. So the simple way that index works is, if there's a product or if there's something that needs to be manufactured, and the core cost of manufacturing it is, let's say, $10,000, but actually the cost of the company is going to $100,000, then Elon Musk would say, there's definitely some idiot index going on here. It's pretty high. We need to figure out what are the unnecessary things driving up the cost. Is it systems? Is it the way the branding is structured? Is it something else? So he would apply this whole thinking, and he would reverse engineer the problem from the very core. He would not outsource his thinking. He would not outsource finding a solution, and he would take the time to just be there with it. And that's what's got him to where he is today, not just in terms of his wealth, but also in terms of the impact and the growth that his companies are bringing into the world. So, how do you implement this in your life? Well, it's simple thinking and a very simple approach that you can take. Understand the world from first principles. So, the simple way to define first principles is, rather than looking at things the way they've always been done, understand what's really at the core. Like for me as a writer, the reason I don't need to rely on any AI anymore, or I didn't even rely on it honestly because I built the skill before AI came in, was that I understood the first principles of writing. And I figured out, okay, XYZ technique is fine, similes are fine, metaphors are fine. What is it that makes a piece great? What is it that makes something worth reading? And I realized it's not the language, it's not the technicalities, it's none of that. It's impact and breakthrough. Is your writing providing impact? And is your writing creating a breakthrough no matter how big or small? If it is, you have written well. Even if you've made grammatical errors, those are just polishing details that you can handle. But again, when I know these first principles, every single time I sit down to write my articles, I have that clarity. In coaching, I follow the same approach that Elon Musk followed for building his businesses. I look at problems from first principles. I never give symptomatic solutions to my clients. I always tell them, let's go to the core. Let's see what's happening. So they cry, they open up, they experience parts of themselves they've never even seen. But that's where they break through, and that's where they get an impact that lasts a lifetime, even if they just spend 3 months with me. So, whatever it is that you're doing in your life, right? Ask yourself, how does this work? Be curious, understand the core principles of it, not just techniques or tips or tricks. Go deep. In today's age where AI can do anything for you, depth is your advantage. The deeper you go, the faster you find out that I don't have to bang my head against the wall just because everybody else is doing it. All I need to do is I need to unlock the door, and boom, I'm sorted. So if you want to become someone who grows fast, who gets non-linear results, one, you got to have a big vision that people are going to criticize. Don't worry about it. The second thing is that it's okay to not know how things are going to happen. And the third thing is, have curiosity and explore things from first principles, like Elon Musk does for every single problem of his life. Because he's able to do that, he's able to build incredible businesses. For any one of you who wants to succeed, understand breaking the problem down to its core and rebuilding, reverse engineering, and mastering those concepts is where the easiest way to growth is. Because if you keep following the crowd, you're going to keep banging your head. But if you take the moment to actually go deep, you're going to understand, oh, okay, so this is how the lock works. And you're going to unlock your destiny. You're going to unlock your manifestations. You're going to unlock your success if you take the time today to master the skill of thinking. That's the easiest way to grow fast. That's the easiest way to get incredible non-linear results in your life. Thank you so much for tuning in today. I hope this discussion has been helpful, and I hope you take this forward, that for the rest of the goals that you have in this year before 31st December kicks in, take the time to understand them and see, are you just taking them as goals for the sake of it, or do you really have some first principles thinking going on? And if not, bring it in, break down the problems, do the calculations, understand them from their depth, and innovative solutions will come right your way. I'll see you once again tomorrow at the same time, that is 8:30 p.m. IST. Bye. See you soon. Until then, keep thinking on first principles.